Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the IndieZone. My name is Kathy. On the 14th of November, the defense filed a motion to suppress and memorandum in support regarding the Pennsylvania search warrant for the white Hyundai Elantra bearing VIN, and then they give the long VIN number here, in the Idaho 4 case. They begin by saying that comes now Mr. Kohberger by and through his attorneys of record, and that is Jay Logston and also Ann Taylor, who have signed this filing in support of his contemporaneously, that means filed at the same time, motion for an order suppressing all evidence gathered by law enforcement as a result of the entry into and search of Mr. Kohberger's vehicle. And we know this happened in Pennsylvania. The Affidavit of Probable Cause bears very heavily in this motion. And we know that Detective Brett Payne, the lead detective in the case, filed this 18-page Affidavit of Probable Cause, which then resulted in Judge Megan Marshall issuing the warrant for Mr. Kohberger's arrest and finding that probable cause existed. That all happened on the 29th of December 2022. The next morning, early morning hours over on the East Coast, Mr. Kohberger is arrested at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. We went over the 18 pages of the Affidavit of Probable Cause that gives further detail into that in the first 18 episodes of the IndieZone podcast series. If you have not already done so, I recommend that you take a listen to that. It'll help understand what this motion is attempting to do and why the defense is raising the issues that they raise here. Well, the first couple of pages, if you go on to page 2 and to page 3, it talks about the Affidavit of Probable Cause. It talks about Brett Payne and his involvement. And then if we go to the top of page 3, it says here, the basic facts Payne used to support the search are described in a separately filed motion pursuant to Franks versus Delaware. This is a 1978 United States Supreme Court case, and they're asking for what's called a Franks hearing. This has to do when a law enforcement official tells things that are untrue or they're negligent, wanton. They should have known better that to include these facts. The Franks motion is something else that we're going to talk about in another episode of the IndieZone. So they say here the facts and issues are incorporated herein without repeating them from the Franks motion. Then they go into their first argument. This court should apply Idaho's exclusionary rule and law to the search of the vehicle. That's the vehicle that Mr. Payne called Suspect Vehicle 1 in the Affidavit of Probable Cause. What the defense is arguing here is Idaho is where the original arrest warrant, where the crimes happened, the arrest warrant was issued, probable cause, that then went to Pennsylvania, and the law enforcement in Idaho sought Pennsylvania's assistance. They're saying here all of this was done illegally. It's fruit of the poisonous tree. Then we have a conflict. Do we go by the Idaho law, which is what they're saying here, regarding searches and seizures and what needs to be excluded because it's violative of the First Amendment and Idaho's also a constitution for illegal searches and seizure, or do we go by Pennsylvania because that's where the car was taken? It's basically a lot of fruit of the poisonous tree. You can't get to step 5 without going through 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you illegally pass through 1, 2, 3, and 4, then everything that happened afterwards should also be thrown out as fruit of the poisonous tree. The attorneys here are asking that everything having to do, they're saying he requests that the court suppress all evidence obtained by police via the warrant that permitted them to search his car. This warrant lacked probable cause as written, given its heavy reliance on conclusions reached by law enforcement without details necessary for a magistrate to draw its own, in this case, it was her own conclusions. and because the warrant omitted exculpatory evidence and information. What's exculpatory? Well, exculpatory is the opposite of inculpatory. Inculpatory evidence are facts that would tend to lead to the conclusion that someone is guilty beyond the reasonable doubt. Exculpatory is just the opposite. This is information that would tend to say, well, this person is not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So they're saying that that information was kept out. It's putting into question the reliability of the facts upon which it relies. And because the affidavit relied on evidence gained in violation of the Constitution, all in violation of the Fourth Amendment and Article 1, Section 17. So they're charging violations of Idaho Constitution and the federal Constitution regarding illegal searches and seizure. This will now conclude this very special episode of the IndieZone, which I'm putting up actually on our YouTube channel. My name is Kathy. Thank you as always for joining us here today.